Welcome to season 11 of the Social Work Rants podcast, providing an inside look of the social work and mental health profession, continuing to discuss social work entrepreneurship, social work being political, and the day to day aspects of the social work profession. Hope you enjoy. Hello, social workers, mental health professionals, and change agents. Welcome to another episode of the Social Work Rants podcast. I'm your host, Bash Moreno. Saludos a todos, greetings, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, tapping in wherever you are watching or listening to the podcast. The beauty of networking. I talk about networking ad nauseum, and back when before Elon messed up Twitter, I had the pleasure of meeting this talented social worker on Twitter before he changed it to X and messed it up, and just vibing. India Hunter, we should be bravely sharing her story, she's being one of the many social workers impacted by the government shutdown that's plaguing America currently. So for all my out of the country listeners and viewers, like if you don't know, it's okay to make fun of us. We're going through a shutdown right now, and fortunately, everyday folks are struggling, and even social workers who are helping clients are going through it as well. Hello, my friend. Long time no see.
I know it's been so long. Oh my gosh, like the mention of Twitter and like the demise of Twitter is crazy because I can't believe it's been a couple years, but I do not be on that platform anymore, really. I pop in every so often, but yeah, it's crazy how much community was built on the platform before Elon took over.
Absolutely.
Um, it was a good time. We had great times on Twitter.
No, absolutely. I mean, I don't really post a lot of podcast stuff on it. I'm still on it. It's just not as frequently as I once did. And for somebody who I loved Twitter, so for Elon to take it over and did what he has done to the platform is crazy. But that's another story for
Yeah.
another day. Out of my scope of practice in terms of the downfall of Twitter now X.
Yeah,
So
same. That's a little bit out of my scope. I wouldn't be able to really dive into it. Just speaking from someone who was affected, it was the worst thing that ever happened to social media, other than MySpace shutting down.
oh man, I talk about we was coding. We was like having
Million
fun.
dollar. We had $1 million skills in middle school and high school. I think about
Exactly.
that all the time. But yeah,
No, no, seriously. I wish we could kind of go back to, but then we'd be having like online fights about why you're not in my top eight.
yeah, yeah. Good
uh,
times, man. Good
it,
times.
exactly. No, but no. Thank you for coming on and just kind of no, by all means, share your story. What you were doing, what you are doing in terms of the social work space. I know you're a talented doula, and which is that a whole other
Yeah.
ball game right there. And just share your story.
Yeah, so let's see. As you mentioned, I'm a social worker. I'm also a public health professional. So I was able to get my degree, my MSW and my MPH together. And while I was getting both of my degrees, my focus was maternal and child health. So on the social work side, I was studying more direct practice therapeutic services for moms during the perinatal period. And then on the public health side of things, I was studying more about like the social determinants of health, health equity, and the Black maternal health crisis. And so, fast forward a couple years, I worked a couple years in nonprofit. So I worked for an organization called Healthy Start. And I worked for the Healthy Start that was in Pittsburgh, or is in Pittsburgh, I should say. I worked there for a couple years as the public health project manager. And in my role, even though the role itself was called public health project manager, it did require a lot of my social work skills because I was working directly with moms who benefited from our programs. And a lot of them had not only just mental health struggles, but also just struggles in terms of resources that they needed. So, utility assistance, getting signed up for SNAP, finding banks for formula and things of that nature. And so I did that for a few years, and then I got the opportunity to come to the federal government. And so I packed up my life, me and my cat and all of my things, and I moved to Maryland for a job with Health and Human Services. So I work for an organization. The agency is called Health Resources and Services Administration, or HRSA is the acronym that we use. And I worked in the Maternal and Child Health Bureau. And so, yeah, I've been doing that it'll be 3 years, or I just hit 3 years in September. So I've been doing that for 3 years. My role, I was a public health analyst and a project or a program officer. And so my role, I was directly overseeing Healthy Start programs, and I worked in a division of perinatal health. Healthy Start and Perinatal Services is my division that I worked in. And so we have 115 grantees across the US. And so just to kind of paint the picture of what we do as project officers, there was 12 of us, and we have a portfolio of anywhere between 10 to, I want to say, like 14 grantees on each of our portfolios, and our jobs was to help them implement the grant. And so working directly with these nonprofits, universities, hospital systems, health departments, and other entities to roll out the Healthy Start model, which is really like one of the only community-based perinatal health programs that exist and has existed for a while. And so that was the role. I was working with grantees in California, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, Pittsburgh, Ohio, Indiana, pretty much all over. We have, like I said, grantees across the United States and Puerto Rico. And so it's a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Our program is very much integrated in the community. It's been around since 1991. And so the original 15 sites are very well trusted, very well established, and they are like the innovative leaders in the maternal and child health space. If you meet people who work in maternal and child health or perinatal health, everybody knows what Healthy Start is because that's how established the program is. And so that's pretty much what I've been doing. Very rewarding work. It's not necessarily micro social work that most people think of. It's very much what we talk about when we talk about macro and policy change and things of that nature. And so loved my job. October 1st hits, and it was actually very strange because on September 30th, we were in the office and we were kind of talking about a government shutdown. But I've been working with the government for 3 years, and each time this happens every year where we're having conversations about the government might how it might shut down. And so that's the conversation that we always have around this time. This time definitely felt different, though. I think everybody knew that this time we were actually going to shut down. We just didn't know how long the shutdown would be. And so the 30th, we're in the office and we're already having meetings to prepare for it. So just, calling division meetings and bureau meetings, letting people know that we'll probably shut down and what to expect if we do shut down. And so October 1st, we went into the office. At this point, we already know that the shutdown is happening, but we have to go into the office for 4 hours to do what they call closeout activities. So setting our out of office emails and letting people know that we can't work during the government shutdown, printing out all of the paperwork that we might need for our furloughs and things of that nature. So yeah, it was a very interesting day. Me and my team were in the office, and we're like, yeah, see you guys in a couple weeks. And I kind of jokingly told my team, I was like, I don't know. I was joking, but I wasn't joking because I kind of had a feeling where I was like, oh, this will probably be the last time we actually see each other in this space. And they were like,
Mm,
oh, no, don't say that. Don't say that. And that was on October 1st. And then on October 10th, we got word that our division in particular was included in the reduction in force that the administration was moving forward with, which means we actually might be laid off. We just don't know right
mm,
now. So I was joking, but that joke seemed to have some like truth to it,
mm-hmm,
because if there's a couple lawsuits that are currently ensuing because of this whole situation, not just with the furlough but also with the reduction in force notices that went out. And if the lawsuit decides to hold up the reduction in force, then we will actually be out of a job. But until
mm.
then, we're still furloughed. Nothing's really moving because the government is shut down. So until the government opens up, there won't really be a lot of movement to say what will happen with my position. So that was kind of long, but I figured I needed to, you know, set the whole picture so people can follow.
Not I wanted to give you the the space to give you that whole picture because you know we could watch the news or hear about it or however news source you listen to and you still might not get the whole picture, especially a lot of the many of the news sources, currently at least major networks or like right leaning anyway. So it's like kind of unless you listen to NPR or something like that, or a lot of whoever you listen to. So to hear actual, that's why I wanted to have you on, like to share your story because you're living through it and giving like
Mm-hmm.
the whole picture and at a state like Maryland, like hello neighbor, it's in
Yeah.
Delaware. With Governor Moore, that's been getting a little bit more of a high profile to something to happen in the state like Maryland and it's kind of being in limbo right now. So it's important to share the story, what's really happening, for somebody who's doing the work in the field.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's it's been very interesting. I would say when it first started, like that first week or so, it was actually kind of nice. Like you wake up and you're like, oh, I don't have to go into the office. Because one thing I would say is since the inauguration, like it has not just for myself, I'm speaking for like a number of my colleagues at
Mm,
Health and Human Services, it has been like absolute hell going into the office sometimes. And not because we actually have to go into the office. Like when I'm talking to other people and they're like, oh, you got to go into the office 5 days a week now. I'm like, that's not even the bummer, right? That's not, I'm like, okay, sure. Like I have to get dressed, I have to leave my house. But for me, I live 15 minutes away from our office. And so
mm,
it's not a huge commute. I have parking on site. Doesn't take me long to get home. Like that part, while it was annoying, that wasn't the thing that was really like making the job toxic. The thing that was
mm,
making the job toxic is this constant like attack on our programs and on the
mm,
evidence base that we use to support our programs. And so when we're watching the news and they're talking about the DEI crackdowns and they're talking about the executive orders, all of that is having like drastic effects not only in our workplace but also how we work with our grantees. And so
mm,
that's been like it's been a constant struggle to like get up, go into the office, and my division we actually hosted the first in-person convening of all of our grantees, not
mm,
only in this current administration but also just the first that we've done in like 5 years because of the pandemic. And so it was like a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of work that went around planning that. So we were, especially myself, because I was one of the project officers that was spearheading that. I
mm,
was so burnt out that that first week when we had the shutdown, the convening was from the 24th to the 27th of September, and then the shutdown happened on October 1st. And so
mm,
I kind of was like reeling in the fact that I didn't have to get up and go to work and that I could like rest because I was so burnt out and just so like exhaust like the I can't even begin to describe the level of exhaustion that I felt in that time. So that first week or so, I was pretty like, okay, like I get to sleep and like do nothing. Um, I think it started to get real for me when I would say when the rifts came out, honestly, like that October 10th date. That was the first like full week of the shutdown.
Mm,
The week before it was the middle of the week, so we had those couple of days, and I kind of knew, I kind of had a feeling that we wouldn't go back to the office that week, but I was hoping that the next week we would probably hear something, and we didn't, and so that's when things started to kind of shift a little bit. Um, yeah, the first week too, a lot of the like restaurants and like businesses are like announcing like furlough specials, happy hours, money off, and all this other stuff. So it
okay.
almost felt like a, no, I don't want to call it a celebration, but it felt very like supportive and nice at first to just be able to like rest and also rejuvenate and also see like the support that we were getting from our community. But as the days have gone on with the furlough, and because we all missed that first check, the first check that we received was on the 10th, and that was only a partial paycheck because they only paid us through the 30th.
Mm,
This past Friday, which I can't remember what day that was, the 24th, I think.
yeah, 24.
Yeah, the 24th was the first day that we missed a full paycheck. So you got to put it in perspective that people are, this month, people have only lived off of what, if it's 70% of the first paycheck and then they don't get the second paycheck, that's like a very small percentage of their salary for the month. And then I
Mm,
think about I'm doing okay because I'm a single adult, but I think about my colleagues and coworkers and all the other workers, the thousands of workers who have families that they
mm,
have to support. Those who are like caregivers to their elders, and also those who are caregivers to their children. Like I can only imagine the level of stress that goes into that, missing that money. So
no, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it's been, I don't know, it's been a roller coaster, I would say.
I can't even imagine like I know like I have a friend of mine who's also works for the government, but she seems to be doing okay. But like telling me stories of office stuff, so I can't even imagine like what you're going through. So, um, how are you thinking about doing anything to try to like supplement the money that you lost from the paychecks?
Yeah, so anybody who knows me knows I'm doing 1,001 things. As you mentioned, I'm also a doula. I haven't been doing a lot of doula work this year, just because I've had my own like health issues that I needed to focus on. But even though I haven't been doulaing and supporting families, I do have a couple contracts for public health consulting as well as contracts as a doula. And so I had that income, that's been supplemental, but it's definitely not enough. I would say it's been helping me get by. And then I also have my savings. So I've been kind of like tapping into that. I also like, just as like a side, when I was working, getting my full pay, and then my side hustles, the other thing that I do just for what I call my fun money, so I can go to the concerts and go on my trips and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, I dog sit and dog walk on Rover. And so I've been doing a lot more of that now because I can, when I was in the office, I couldn't pick up a dog walk in the middle of the day. But now that I'm not working right now, if someone's pinging the app and they're asking for a dog walk at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, I could do that. So I've been doing a lot more of that, and that's picked up a little bit. But for my actual contracts that I have, I get paid on a monthly and a quarterly basis. So luckily, October 1st, I got a quarter of my pay for one of my contracts. So that has been holding me over. And then my other position that I get paid monthly, I'll get another check in November for that, even though it won't be as substantial because that one is hourly based, and it's a teaching role at a hospital for like health education courses. And so I didn't have as many classes in October as I usually do, but again, it's still something. Like I could be getting nothing coming in, you know? So,
No, of course.
yeah.
Oh man, that's
Yeah.
a lot.
It's definitely a lot. And I think just like waking up and also trying to find other ways to make money. Like I've had a Instacart account as an Instacart shopper for a while. I haven't actually gone back on the app as of yet, but I'm like, at this point, it's probably going to be a regular thing for me to be on the app. And just thinking about other ways, I'm finding like little contracts here and there that I can like submit my resume to. And I'm also applying to other jobs because I'm like, at this point, I don't feel comfortable like waiting and depending on chance to like save me in this world, especially when the bills they're not stopping and they don't actually care. Like I've talked to my leasing office, I've called utility companies, I've called credit card companies, I've called all of them, and some of them are kind of working with me, but none of them are like, okay, like full stop, we won't collect on this debt or we won't collect on this bill. They're more so just like, okay, we can like push the date back, or we can work with you on like splitting the payments up and things of that nature, but there's no like actual reprieve from owing that money. And so you got to do what you got to do.
No, yeah, that's you hit the nail right on the head. You got to do what you got to do, and also the capitalist society that that we currently in, and these companies don't care. They want their money. So unfortunately, man, like I'm kind of stumped. Ask you.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing too, I want I'm just thinking about the things that I want to make sure your listeners and your viewers know too.
No, yeah.
Because I know like watching the news, it can kind of be confusing because you got some reports that are saying that people are working and they're not getting paid, and then you got some reports that say people are not working and they're not getting paid, and then you got reports that are talking about the military getting paid. Like there's just a lot of reports and they're not really explaining what's actually going on. So just for a point of clarity, there are 3 categories that federal workers fall into during a shutdown. And I can't remember the actual term for this first one, but the first one is the category of workers that still have to go to work and are still getting paid. Right. I can't remember what they're called, but the reason they still have to go to work and they're still getting paid is because their funding actually comes from different mechanisms outside of the appropriations bill. And so they may receive some funding from the Appropriations Act, but the majority of their funding doesn't come from it, so they can keep working. Then there's the expected group, which is the second group, and they are the ones who are considered essential workers, so they have to go to work, but they're not getting paid. So that's like your TSA officers, the air traffic controllers, other, I can't really think of other ones right now, but it's a pretty hefty portion of government workers who fit under that category, where they are expected to still work and go without a paycheck. So I also just want to uplift and highlight them too, because it's not even necessarily that they have to go to work, but they're spending money to go to work because we all have to go into the office now and do things. So they're spending money commuting, they're spending money paying for parking, they're spending money on like extra food so they can have lunch for the day. And they're not getting paid for any of that right now. So there are those workers. And then the majority of us are considered the furloughed workers, where we're forbidden from working. Like our laptops are locked, we can't even log in, and then also we're not getting paid. So those, I just wanted to make that clarification so people can know. That's, if you're talking to somebody and they're talking about having to go to work but they haven't gotten paid, that's because they fall into that second category. And then also that the people who fall into that first category, it's a lot of uncertainty with them as well because they don't know when their additional funding outside of the appropriations is going to end. And so they're kind of just playing the waiting game as well. I know some folks who have been told by their offices that if the shutdown goes into November 1st, then they will also be furloughed because they'll be out of funds then. But it really just depends on the different agency, the different office, and things of that nature.
Gotcha. No, that's a great breakdown. That's part of what initially I was trying to get at the very beginning. Like what there's a lot of information, a lot of misinformation, a lot of confusion of who's doing what, who's getting paid, and all this stuff. And again, it depends who you watch, who you're listening to. So, thank you for that clarification of that information in terms of what is legit happening with the government and the shutdown in terms of how people are getting paid, not getting paid, doing the work, and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting time. I think this isn't the first government shutdown.
Right.
It's currently the second longest, but the longest was in 2019. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it's a very interesting time to live in because I feel like there's a portion of people who just have selective amnesia because I was like 2019 was not that long ago.
Yes, exactly.
And so you have a group of people who are like, oh, like it's not even that bad. And I'm like, well, if you remember in 2019 when the government shut down and it was 35 days, it was that bad. Like there were people who were really struggling during that time and who are still trying to like get their way back out of that financial hole that they had to dig themselves in. Mm-hmm. I would say the only difference now is that because of what happened in 2019, there seems to be a lot more resources for federal workers who need it. Like I would say I feel pretty blessed here in Maryland, at least, because I feel like the community has really rallied around federal workers when it comes to like at least like food assistance and like other things that aren't technically related to your bills. And so things that they can fill in the gaps. I saw one of my friends sent me a post today. There's a natural hair care salon that's doing free twist appointments on Sunday. So for furlough workers. And so they're just, people are really thinking like, oh yeah, people in this region remember how bad it was. And so they've really rallied around and it's been a very nice silver lining to see, I would say. But outside of that, I feel like there are people who are like, oh, it's not going to be that bad. The government shuts down all the time. And I'm like, well, no, we don't shut down all the time. We might shut down all the time. But this is the first time we've shut down in, 6 years. And then on top of that, it's being predicted that it might be the longest shutdown. And when you think back in 2019, how people really were devastated by missing those 35 days, it puts a lot of things in perspective now, especially because in 2019, they did receive back pay. This time, it's unclear if we're going to receive back pay. So there's just a lot of like unknowns and a lot of uncertainty around it based off the politics of the situation. So yeah, just keep us lifted.
and even that there was a Medicaid, not Medicaid, a food stamp cut like in 2018, 2019 as well on top of the shutdown. So because I remember trying to explain to clients who are like severely mentally ill who are working with her, like they were mad at me, like where's my food stamps? So like the government is shut down. Is the federal government cut your food stamps? Like nothing I can do about it. So it's like people have selective amnesia, and it's like literally 6 years later, you got the same president again and the same situation all over again. And it's
same situation, same president, same like overall makeup of like Congress in terms of Congress also being Republican on both chambers. And I would say the biggest difference this time is that I feel like the current administration knows what they're doing this time. And so they're purposefully twisting the narrative to fit a certain, and not to, I don't want to get too political, because I do think that when we talk about these things, in today's time, it's too much black and white and not enough nuance. I do think that there are certain things that politicians on both sides could be doing right now to alleviate it, but I also do want to call a spade because just looking historically, this current administration, this president, he is not good at this. He's not good at the appropriations part. And I just think people are like really being manipulated into believing that this is something that the Democrats can control when he's the president. Both chambers of Congress are Republican as well. And then on top of that, a lot of what is happening with the shutdown is because of Republican policies. So we can sit here and talk about like both sides, like putting blame on both sides, and that Congress needs to do their job to reopen the government. Yes, but at the same time, we also need to understand why this is happening in the first place, and understand that some of us, especially people like me who, again, I'm a single adult. I don't really have to worry about anybody but myself and my cat. And I'm like, it's okay for me to be squeezed a little bit right now, and for me to be put in an uncomfortable predicament in order to make sure that the American people are prioritized. And I feel like a lot of what I've seen in the media, at least, isn't telling the full story, especially with this past like back and forth about paying federal workers. As a federal worker who's missing my paycheck, I can wholeheartedly say that like what I'm seeing in the media is not the full picture. Like you'll see these headlines: Democrats shut down bill to pay federal workers. Like that's not actually what is occurring. What they did do is say no to a bill that would only pay certain workers, that was at the discretion of OPM and the president, which is not how any of this usually works. Usually everything is dictated by the appropriations of Congress. And so now you're taking that power from Congress and putting it into the executive branch, which is just another overreach of what the executive is doing. And so that's what people aren't seeing. But that's why it's really important to have conversations like this and also talk to people who are in the thick of it, because we actually know a lot more about the behind the scenes and what's actually occurring. And also the fact that the Dems actually tried to pass a law to get everyone paid. And the only thing that was in that bill was to pay federal workers, regardless of their status. Everyone was going to get paid, and the Republicans blocked it from even going to the floor. But you're not hearing that side of the story. You're just hearing the side that the Democrats shut down the government because they want to give health care to, and I'm not even going to say the term because it just infuriates me, but the narrative. It's the Democrats' fault, and they're not trying to pay federal workers, and that's just not the case.
And that's what I was getting at. That there's a lot more right wing, news outlets more than there ever were, and now CBS is now leaning towards right with with the sale that they recently just had. So it's really hard to. I mean, there's other resources that you could get in terms of actual to find facts and stuff like that. So, and even though those sources are getting attacked by this administration too, to not share what is actually going on. So, so yeah, you hit the nail right on the head in terms of like I said, going back to why having you on and share your truth and the truth of what is actually happening in terms of the shutdown and just give nuance to how important it is for us those social workers who we're gonna be going through it. Like it's bad enough. It's like the holidays and there's already like seasonal depression disorder going on, and there's already like now everybody likes the holidays, and now you add SNAP benefits being cut and people not working or people working not getting paid, and so now we're dealing with safety issues. If people want to fly and they got to deal with disgruntled TSA workers, they work and not getting paid,
and tired air traffic controllers.
Exactly, it's scary.
It's very scary, and I think too to your point about how it will drastically impact social workers. even just in our day to day of working, right? Like from the, like you said, from the spectrum of the micro social worker who will have to deal with like the mental health struggles that will come up from people not being able to pay their bills, not being able to get food because their SNAP benefits are cut, and all these other systemic things that are happening. And then also on the micro end of things, those who work in the meso and the micro, helping like with care coordination and resource sharing and things of that nature. We're currently in a space where social workers are taking a lot of the burden on because of the work that we do, but because of all of the political things that are happening, the things that we can usually help with are not a resource. Like you said at the beginning of our conversation, just about how work, people, how people were upset with you when their SNAP benefits are getting cut. Like social workers are going to have to deal with that, and not only that, but the narrative and also the a huge truth that we talk about a lot in social work is how underpaid the field is.
Yes.
And so we're also talking about the number of social workers who are community healthcare workers or library social workers, and they work in the actual community, and they also don't get paid enough, so they also receive SNAP benefits. And we don't really, I mean, I know in our circles of social work, we talk about that, but when people are going through getting their degrees in social work, it's not talked about a lot. Like we talk about this idea of like a sacrificial or like a giving nature that social workers have, but we don't really talk about the fact that social workers are very severely underpaid, and that a number of social workers are trying to help their clients navigate what to do without their SNAP benefits, and they're also receiving SNAP benefits themselves. And
Exactly.
so it's definitely like a huge conundrum that will impact social workers on a personal level and a professional level. Yeah, so it's just, I don't know. It's a really crazy time to be alive. It's a really crazy time
Yes.
to be in the social work field as well as the public health field. Um, there's like a hidden agenda to just dismantle public health as we know it, and because
I
of
mean,
the
it's not really hitting because it's in Project 2025.
very true, very true. I think hidden may not be the right word, but just it's like it's very manipulative. Like the administration's priorities, they make it seem like their priority is making America healthy again, while systematically tearing down the public health infrastructure that we was already broken, mind you. And we saw that with
Exactly.
like the pandemic, and now it's just getting worse, you know. So yeah, definitely an interesting time to be alive. And I think this is a time to really just like remind my social work brothers and sisters and siblings out there that this is kind of what we signed up for too. Like, I don't think any of us have very glamorous jobs, but the job itself we signed up for because we have such a care for people and communities. And so I think this is one of those times where we all have to be a little bit uncomfortable, but also tap into our social work practice for our own self coping mechanisms that we may need, and also our own resource gathering and sharing with one another to support one another as well as our communities that we serve. So,
Uh, how can if somebody wanted to, you say you're doing okay, but if somebody wanted to like reach out to try to help you out, make sure you good and you stay, I guess, close to you. I guess use a social work term, maybe like your current baseline.
yeah.
Uh, how could people like if they wanted to help to reach out to you?
That's a thank you for asking that because I didn't even think about that. I could definitely use some additional support. I have a number of friends who, are making sure I get out the house. So if I have social work friends and families and siblings in the area, hit me up on social media. We can go for a walk if it's warm enough. I'm also just thinking like cash transfers. So I'm on Cash App, Venmo, Zelle. If anybody wants to like support me in that way, like in a monetary way, I would say reach out to me also on social media. At Instagram is probably the best way to reach out to me these days. I try to like not be on social media too much because of all of that,
Mm-hmm.
all of the things. That's another conversation for
That's,
another day about the
I mean,
hijacking of the tech companies. But
yeah. I'm,
Instagram, and my at is India underscore Renee underscore. And I'm sure you'll share that in the show notes and stuff
yeah.
like that.
No, I definitely will.
But yeah, that would probably be the best way to just get in contact with me, and I can let people know what I need. Whether it be like a couple dollars to get like a DoorDash or some money towards my groceries or towards
Mm-hmm.
my electric bill that has been astronomical over the past like
Yes.
year and a half, due to these data centers and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
that would be the best way to reach out and connect with me.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you for, bravely sharing your story. No, I appreciate it. I'm sure the viewers and listeners hopefully will appreciate your story and knowing, hopefully somebody would be able to reach out to help if they're able to, and not just, continue to share your story. And I'm sure there's a lot of other social workers going through it
Yeah, for
as
sure.
well. And like we said at the very beginning, one day at a time.
No, seriously. And to that last point, and this is my last point, there are so many social workers who work for the federal government that people
Mm,
don't know about because it's not the traditional social work roles. But I know so many social workers, just in my division alone, there's three of us. And so just thinking about the amount of social workers who are furloughed right now, and a number of us, because we work for Health and Human Services, have also received the reduction in force notices. So a lot of us are hurting right now. So if you know a social worker who works for the federal government, even if they're just furloughed or if they are furloughed and received a RIF like myself, definitely reach out to them and see how they can be supported because we need it. And the thing that has been keeping me going over this past month is the fact that I have such a strong community who has been supportive, and whether it just be to call and check in or text and check in or like actually get me out the house or pay for something, it's been very it's been the only thing keeping me up, I will say. So just want to leave with that point that if you know a social worker going through it, and also the social workers who are impacted by the federal shutdown who don't work for the federal government, but their program might be impacted because of the
mm.
federal funding, reach out to them as well.
No, yeah, absolutely. No, it's crazy that, like, because it's so hard to, get into the federal government as a social worker, these jobs, and then once you get in it, and now you got to deal with a government shutdown and
Yeah,
furlough, all
no,
this stuff. It's crazy.
and I think it's crazy too because it's like you said, it's all a part of a greater plan that's outlined in Project 2025.
Mm,
And for people who didn't believe it, there's a number of websites where you can just Google Project 2025 tracker and see how far they've already come to implementing these strategies outlined in that manifesto. But yeah, like you said, I think we, not just as social workers, but just people in general, especially people of color, working for the federal government was kind of like the creme of the creme.
mm,
Like, you get a good federal government job, and there are people who are career feds because the benefits are good, the money is good, and in certain instances, the work that you're doing is actually so impactful and rewarding. Like I am very saddened by the fact that they want to get rid of my program because I am very passionate and I see the results of the program. Like
mm.
moms and babies need to be supported,
Of
and not
course.
just that, but our program is the only program in the Maternal and Child Health Bureau that actually has a focus on fatherhood as well. But you're getting
Mm.
rid of that program to play politics, and that's what is really sad about it. So yeah, it's been a very interesting time the past 10 months. Just trying to like remind myself that it is just a job, and that the what do you call it? The glass ceiling isn't here anymore for me, and I have to keep reminding myself of that because sometimes, like some days, I'm thinking like, well, if I can't succeed in the federal government, then where can I succeed? But then I think about it, and I'm like, I'm very capable of going somewhere else and doing a really good job. I just need to like actually lock in to do that. But there are going to be a number of people who they've only worked for the federal government. Their only skills are federal service. And sometimes when you kind of are pigeonholed like that, it's hard to see how your skills can be transferable. And so
Exactly.
I just, I hope and I pray for those folks, those social workers who have been in the government for like a really, like I know people who have been in the government for like 24 years and are now facing a possible layoff because of this administration. But I think it just kind of reiterates the point of social work practice too, and just like figuring out how to start from scratch on things, how to do a lot with a little, and also just how to pivot for sure.
Awesome. On that note, again, thank you for your time and thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yes,
And good luck to you and the podcast and everything
thank
else
you.
going on with work.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.